What's the worst text you have sent to the wrong person? So mine is, I was texting a client, and I am professional all the time, obviously. I meant to type WTF ? And it auto-corrected to DTF ?
Did they say yes or no?
She was not my type. Welcome to Season 2 of Property Management Uncensored. I am your host, Phil Kazmierczak, along with the beautiful Samantha McKinney. Welcome.
I got ready today.
You got ready today?
Yeah.
I see that. You're not looking like Adam Sandler in a sweatshirt.
I know. I'm upset because I was going to have a cup of water, and I was going to joke that it was vodka.
Oh.
I forgot about that.
I think we would all know it's not a joke.
Yeah. It's one of those days. It's one of those days.
It is. We just had, when you're a property management company, dealing with utility companies is a nightmare. And we just had a third horrible experience with one of our local utility companies.
Was it the third?
Yeah, because it's the third time we've scheduled service to be turned on for this particular property.
Third time's the charm.
We'll see if it works tomorrow between 8 and 10.
Are you going or me?
You.
Oh, great.
I'll be recording at the Realtors Association.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So this episode is going to feature back to basics. We are going to start at the beginning. We're going to talk about the VRLTA and some of the most basic things that a landlord and tenant has to do regarding their lease or property management agreement. And we're also going to talk about some pending legislation, which is not great for landlords.
Yeah.
Are you ready to kick it off?
Yep.
All right. So understanding landlord-tenant laws when you are a landlord and a tenant is incredibly important, whether you are a tenant renting that property or a landlord, because people think they can do whatever they want to do, whenever they want to do it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we run into is a landlord, I just want to run by the property. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Have you had that recently?
Not recently. I think that tenants are a lot more aware of their rights now. And I think that landlords are a lot more aware of tenant rights and owners as well. So
yeah, one of the things that happened is during COVID, tenants got really aware of the laws regarding property management, especially when it came to evictions specifically. As a landlord, there's more that you need to do than collect rent. It's maintaining the property, keeping it in livable condition. It's huge because tenants know that when something is not done and it's an emergency condition, they can do things like put rent into escrow, into court.
yes.
And that's not a fun experience.
Do you know what I call the landlords who don't upkeep their properties?
What?
Slumlords.
Yes.
Have you heard that?
Yes.
Yeah. Nobody wants to they wouldn't want to live in a property that's not upkept. So.
No one does. And unfortunately, I've let go owners because they won't keep their property to the minimum standards.
I mean, it's the biggest investment you can make. So
Absolutely.
The longer you upkeep it, the longer the longevity is going to be.
And it's a good rule of thumb, to set aside 1% of that property's value for maintenance every year.
Such a good rule. Such a good rule. And not enough people do that. But if you're going to be an investor, then you have to plan for the unplannable. And things are going to break. It's a house. It's life. So
absolutely. And
fix it.
we know tenants should take care of properties as if they owned the property, but we know some of them don't. A lot of them do. We have some fantastic tenants that I'm grateful for. And then we have tenants that won't be renewed.
We have a lot of really good tenants.
Yeah.
Though. Like I would say the majority of our tenants are really solid tenants.
Oh, I would say probably 85% of our tenants are fantastic.
I think I'd put it higher than that.
Higher than 85?
Yeah.
Because I can only think of 3 that are not wonderful to deal with off the top of my head.
Yeah. Which is higher than 85.
That is true. That is true when you have hundreds and hundreds of properties. Yeah, absolutely. So, landlords have responsibilities, but tenants have responsibilities too. And it's not just paying rent on time. They need to actually make sure that they are reporting things when it goes wrong with the property, because if there's a slow drip, and they see it in the ceiling and they're not reporting that, they can be liable for the additional damage. Mm-hmm. So it's something that they absolutely need to be on the lookout for. One of the biggest disputes that we have, security deposits.
Yes.
There are 3 people that look at our move-out inspections prior to a disposition being issued. And disposition is the itemized cost of anything that we deduct from the security deposit. Just telling that for people that don't know.
I'm glad my hands are not in that pot, and I'm not one of those individuals.
Yeah, because Hans looks at it, Melissa looks at it, and I look at it just to make sure it's correct. Because there may be something that they charge a tenant for. And I'm like, no, that really is wear and tear. So let's talk about wear and tear for a second, because wear and tear, we as property managers, we think about the way that we live in our homes and any damage that we do our properties. And we're like, wow, that's excessive. There's extra scuffs on the wall and stuff like that. That's tenant damage. It's mostly wear and tear.
Yeah.
I had a court case in Virginia Beach. This would have been back in it's been a while ago, probably 2017, 2018 maybe. And we lost a case, and it's the only one that I've really lost in this scenario. But they had graffitied on a wall
Inside the home?
Inside the home, in the bedroom. Actually, it was a full bedroom that they had just graffitied, and the judge ruled in their favor.
What did it say?
I can't say on the air. They were unhappy because they were evicted. But in this particular case, on this particular charge, we lost because the judge in Virginia Beach told us that we were supposed to be repainting the entire house at every turnover.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
I think that's the hard thing is a lot of things are based on a certain judge. Like one judge will be lenient with, and so that makes it really hard.
Yeah.
But that was a special case because
that was very special.
No way.
Yeah.
Every room of the property?
No, this was just one bedroom that was.
I know, but the judge thought you should repaint
the whole house.
Entire property.
The whole property had to be
wild.
repainted at every turnover. This is not like an 800 square foot apartment where that would make sense. In a multifamily, you're used to doing it, whatever.
Obviously, that judge has never painted a room in his life.
Apparently not.
No way.
Nor owned, I'm sure he did not own an investment property.
It took 2 people and a whole lot of brain cells to paint this wall the other day. Sorry, guys.
I know. I came back and I was like, yeah, HGTV called. They do not want you. Oh, because I don't think either of them have painted a wall before. Is that correct? Yeah. Yeah, not at all.
They did. I mean,
it turned out great
It did, but weren't you in there like W?
Yeah, like paint a W, do a W and then fill in, do a W, fill in. And they were just all over the wall.
I also learned that day how to paint. I just wasn't going to admit that I do not do that.
Oh my gosh. That's good to know. Because I just painted one of my rooms.
What? Hanging stuff, I think, is the biggest when it comes to like wear and tear and all of that. I think the biggest question I get the most is, can we hang stuff? Can we hang curtains, curtain rods, stuff like that? I think that's...
And it's all wear and tear.
Yeah, I mean, because it's
reasonable that a tenant is going to do that. Even mounting TVs, that's a big one. And there's a lot of people... The issue with mounting TVs is... Sometimes they're not mounted straight, so they have to redo it, and you end up with like 6 holes to mount this television. And they're not small nail holes. I mean, they're bolts going into studs.
I'm not tenant, but I own my house. You should see behind my TV, though.
Have you seen the...
I'm going to send a picture so that we can put it somewhere above my head in this video. This is behind my TV.
This is true, because at my house, if you ever looked on that wall, how it was terrible from when I mounted a TV.
Are you talking about the wall to the right?
Yes.
Like right in the door? I know that wall in your house. Yeah.
There was a bunch of holes in that one. Absolutely. And then after that, when I moved back in, I had everything professionally done because I didn't.
We know because we've been there and we've done it. We've messed it up.
We've made all the mistakes. And I see the videos on TikTok or something like that where I'm like, I mounted the TV straight, but then you see all the water pulling out of the wall because they nailed into a water pipe.
No, I had that. I had that a couple years ago. Somebody had paid an actual company, like a licensed and insured company, to hang their TV. And they drilled into a plumbing pipe, and the kitchen wall was on the other side with kitchen cabinets. They didn't know for months. And yeah, because it was like it was like a pin size. And so it took months and then they had to rip out the whole kitchen wall, all of the cabinets. They couldn't match the cabinets. So then they had to redo the entire kitchen, and it was terrible.
There must have been, I'm guessing if it was a kitchen, there must have been a bathroom or something upstairs directly above it.
Yes, there was a bathroom upstairs, and it was the shower pipe coming down. Yeah.
Yep.
It was great.
It happens. We see all sorts of things in this world. Let's see. Leases are another area. Like, when you look at our lease, and we're just covering real basics here on the first episode of this season, but leases need to be incredibly specific. Incredibly.
We talked about that an hour ago.
Yes.
Because I got like 12 questions and I just reiterated I just like copied and pasted from the lease.
Yeah, that exactly. And ours are, if you look at the RAIN lease or VAR lease or something like that, I mean, they're okay, but they are very basic. There's no type of penalty. So if you have that something is against the rules, there needs to be some kind of penalty in that lease to enforce that provision.
Yes.
And that's where we do a really good job. It's like, okay, if you have a regular lease will say unauthorized tenants are prohibited. Okay, but what if you have an unauthorized tenant? Is the only cure to that eviction?
Right.
Because we found that by the time it gets to court, the judge is going to evict that one person or whatever, but there should be some kind of financial penalty in there as well.
Yes.
Absolutely, because financial penalties work. Mm-hmm. That's the easiest way to discourage.
It gives incentive to fix the issue.
Absolutely. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, that's a fee, that you shouldn't be charging. Well, don't break the rule.
Well, you're doing an action you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, we don't have any fees unless you break a rule.
Yeah.
It's very easy to follow. The eviction process, people got very well educated on this process during COVID. And it was a little different then because you couldn't evict. Mm-hmm. And now it's back to normal. And we're going to talk about this a little bit
Normal-ish.
Normal-ish.
They changed a lot of things. You took your 5-day notice and went to a 14-day notice.
Yep.
So they definitely made it harder for us.
Yeah.
It's not back to normal.
Yeah, during COVID. Yeah, now it's back to the 5 days again. But we're going to talk about that when it comes to pending legislation. But the eviction process, people, I don't know. I think there's so much misinformation out there about how to do an eviction. There's so many landlords that manage their own properties that do it incorrectly, that give everyone a bad name. Like they'll just go and change the locks. You can't do that.
Yeah. You want to know what? It's so a little bit off topic, but still on topic. Have you ever heard? Because you want to know what else gives us a bad name? Just Hampton Roads in general. Have you ever heard that we have the highest eviction rate? Mm-hmm. But they're basing that off of unlawful detainers filed and not actual like all the way through eviction. So I think that we just have a bad reputation for no reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a pilot program, and I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it was an eviction diversion program that was for Hampton and Norfolk specifically. I'm not sure if that's in effect or not because we haven't had to utilize it, fortunately. Maybe it was just Hampton. Maybe it wasn't. Actually, I don't think it was Norfolk. I think it was just Hampton, but we don't really have properties up there where we have to.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, but it just gives other barriers to eviction. It was... Okay. And I'm very black and white on this topic. You pay rent or you get out.
Yeah.
Like I'm not about giving second chances and third chances. And the law is incredibly lenient already, in my opinion. Like rent is due on the 1st. It's considered late on the 6th. On the 6th, we can send you a 5-day failure to pay notice. And then after that time frame is up, we can file for unlawful detainer. It takes 3 to 4 weeks to get a court date. If it's backed up, it can take longer than that. You get the court date. If the tenant shows up, you probably get a 10-day possession if they haven't paid at that point. If they don't show up, you're probably going to get an immediate possession on that, but you still have to wait for the appeal period. So that's another 10 days that you've got to wait. So you're looking to...
And then you have to wait for the sheriff to call and schedule with you. And they have 30 days to do that from the time the writ gets to their desk is what they've told me.
Yeah, it's generally about a week to 2 before they actually call, but there is that time frame on there. And the tenant can pay at that point and still pay up until I think it's 48 or 72 hours before the eviction to stay in the property. Yes. So they have several chances.
Yep. As long as they make full restitution on their account, they get a right of redemption.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And the next section I have is discrimination in my notes. And this is huge because we have fair housing laws. Virginia has specific laws. There's no discrimination based on race, color, religion, national origin, sex, familiar status, disability, veteran status, source of funds. That's not an all-inclusive list, but there's a lot of things. And people just assume, unfortunately, sometimes that they were denied for one of those reasons, when in reality, and I just saw one about this, it was because they didn't make enough income.
Yeah.
I'm like, it wasn't because of any of these, things. It's show me the income.
It's an easy go-to to deflect, any responsibility from their own actual wrongdoing.
Right. Another point of contention that we get is ESAs, emotional support animals. And I'm so glad that we use a service called petscreening.com. And it takes a lot of the burden off of us to that company to make a recommendation on whether or not we approve that service animal or emotional service animal. And what a lot of landlords should understand is, yeah, you can be a no pet property, but if someone has a legit emotional support animal, you're taking that pet.
Yeah.
And just because your insurance says I don't cover pit bulls, that is not necessarily a get out of jail free card.
Which is so wild to me.
Yeah.
Like legally, the owner will have to change their homeowner's policy to accommodate.
Correct.
Which is...
That's why it's called a reasonable accommodation. Apparently, it's reasonable to change your... Now, if there is an undue financial burden on that owner, let's say the policy was $2,000 a year, and the next policy they can find is $4,000 a year. That's an undue financial burden. So you may be able to deny.
Who determines what is a financial burden versus where's that line at?
Guess who's not making that determination? I can tell you that.
Yeah. But that's rough.
I'm going to err on the side of not ending up in a fair housing lawsuit. So that's why I'm like, nope, I'm just not going to deal with that.
No special exceptions.
Yeah, not at all.
You want to know who expects special exceptions the most and who should know better? Agents.
Oh, absolutely.
Agents.
Absolutely.
They'll be like, hey, I have this person, but they have a 400 credit score. Is there any way you can make an exception for them? And I'm like, did you not take the real estate classes that I did? Because
I know.
I don't understand.
We treat everyone equally.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want that fine.
No, absolutely. Absolutely not. No, we have to treat everyone equally. Just like, will you waive this fee or that fee? You know, I'd love to. I'd love to have you have a great experience with us, but we need to treat everyone equally.
Yes.
So we can't treat anyone as favorites. We have some pending legislation to cover because the General Assembly has been pretty active, and they are not landlord friendly.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I saw it.
There's 11. Just by my rough count, and this may not be anything, but I saw 11 bills in the House and I think 6 in the Senate. And the ones in the Senate are duplicates of the one in the House. And they'll marry them together at crossover. But one of the big ones, well, I'll just go through them actually. A lot of people in Virginia want to have a criminal record screening model policy. This is things you can hold against tenants. These are things you cannot hold tenants. It's already a protected class when it comes to criminal convictions in some ways, where just because someone has a criminal record, you cannot deny them just because they have a record. If it is an immediate threat to person or property, that's where it gets into a gray area. But that gray area is what people don't like seeing because they want a consistent policy. But that's House Bill 1638. House Bill 1709 is
that one's rough because sometimes it's not a one size fits all. Like it's, that one's tough.
It is tough, and we have to use our best judgment.
And that's what I mean. Like I feel like with that stuff, you have to use your better judgment.
And I mean, we can look at something. If I see something on there that's 20 years ago, do I care about it? Probably not.
As long as
if it's nonviolent,
if I'm not in harm's way, then
I know. If I see like petty larceny or something like that, we're not holding that against people. Like, come on. It has to deal with threat to life or property for us to look at it. House Bill 1709. This would prohibit the landlord of a multi-family dwelling unit from accepting payment from a provider of broadband service for granting such provider access to the landlord's tenants. This is very common in the multifamily world. If apartment complexes will work with a broadband provider and collect money on the back end. It's very, very common. So this would prohibit that. House Bill 1718.
I can agree with that. I like that.
Yeah, that's fine. We're not really in the multifamily space, so it's not going to affect us much anyway, nor do I have any agreements with companies like that. So, House Bill 1718, this gives localities authorization to come after the landlord, which is something that I think they've tried in previous sessions before.
And it failed.
Yeah, it failed. Next is 1719. This increases the notice period from 5 days to 14 again, just like it was during COVID. This is something that passed last year, and it was vetoed by Governor Youngkin. It's going to pass again this year, I'm guessing, and I'm hoping that it will be vetoed again. Here's the thing. pay rent on time.
Yeah.
There are, unfortunately, we tell all of our landlords to have 6 months in reserves. However, most landlords use that month's rent to pay that month's mortgage payment. So we cannot have that kind of delay. And the landlords say, the tenants say, well, that's not my problem. And actually,
but it is.
It sort of is, because you signed a contract to pay rent
and now
by a certain
that
point.
owner has to pay 2 mortgage payments because you don't want to pay your one.
That's right. Your rent payment. That's right.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, those people will be the first to put in like 6 work orders.
Yes.
They won't pay their rent, and then they'll put in a ton of work orders, and they'll say that's why I didn't pay rent. Because of these things.
And the thing is even when they don't pay rent, they don't do it the correct way. You know, if there's something wrong with the property and you genuinely feel like you should not pay rent, then there's a certain way to go about that through the court system.
Absolutely. And unfortunately...
And then it keeps it off your rental history.
Right.
And your credit. And I mean, they end up hurting themselves more in the long run
Yes.
Karma.
Let's see. We talked about that one. House Bill 1867. This is a good one. I like this. This requires a 60-day notice of non-renewal for any tenant, for any owner who owns more than 10% interest in 4 units or more than 4 units. We already do this. So and that's a good business practice. You don't want to be giving someone 15 days notice that they need to be out of a property that they're not renewing. That's not fair.
It's not fair to anybody.
No, so 60 days is good. There are some tenants that are like, we need
still
like 90.
Don't. Yeah,
and
they want like 120, and that's a lot. But
and those are the people where something happened.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, and I can understand that back during COVID times when the market was the way it is, but we don't need that kind of notice right now. So
60 days is fine. It's sufficient. There's plenty of inventory on the market for everyone. And most of the time, if we don't renew a tenant, it's because of something they did or the owner's selling. Yeah. It's not just because we want to have a vacant rental property. Like, that's not how the business works. So if you get a notice of non-renewal, it's because you did something or the tenant or the owner's selling the property. And what you did will be noted.
We gotta let them in on the secret.
Right. Like, it's not us.
Now they're going to be emailing saying, what did I do?
Right. Maybe.
You're going to give them anxiety.
No, because the last ones I've done where all the owner was selling the property.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to send a non-renewal notice because I have a tenant in there that's paying rent. There is one that I just did not renew because of their payment history. But it's because of they did something.
I was trying to think of which one it is, but I can't.
I'll tell you after.
Okay. I just had somebody give me a notice of non-renewal because we did a rent increase, which is typical. Yeah. But then now they're renting a property that's like the same exact price as the rental increase.
I know.
And they want to go through.
I know. I mean, it shows we were good. It's just they didn't like the rent. I will say that the new property that they applied for is much nicer.
Yes, it is. Yep, it is an upgrade for the price. So
yes, I get it. Yeah. House Bill 1870, this is what would prohibit algorithmic devices. So this stems from a lawsuit that is going on nationwide. I think it's against RealPage, I think is what it's called. And what they're saying is it amounts to price fixing along in the multifamily space. So what happens is 2 multifamily companies use this software. The company A uses the algorithm to price their rental, and then the property rents. Now that price from property A goes into the algorithm. Property B wants to know what to rent the same property for, the same type of property. So they're using that information. So it's like they're using an algorithm to make a comp? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we pull comps the old-fashioned way. Like I look at the MLS.
Yeah, so they're just using like an AI generator to do it instead?
Exactly.
But is that going to pull a legitimate comp number?
I don't know. How accurate are his estimates?
Ooh.
Yeah. So
if they chance out and get it rented for that, but that's going to throw off the whole market.
Yep. So, and one of the defendants in the lawsuit said, hey, look, less than 50% of our clients are using this feature and only 10% are actually going with what the algorithm said anyway. So that was their defense.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see what that happens. I think it's probably going to pass. I don't know.
Do you?
Yeah. I don't. Well, it's going to pass. I just don't know if the governor's going to veto it or not. We'll see what happens.
I just wonder what kind of effects it'll make on the market. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting in the multifamily space. It's not going to affect us.
Technology is really changing the world.
Right. I like pulling comps. It gets me familiar with the neighborhoods and the price ranges per neighborhood. I don't want to just plug an address in and have the number pop out.
And so I was thinking about that the other day because I know that, one of our, big things is to be more personable, and I know that we do all of our communication via email and in person. But then I was thinking about it. And even though we're not personable because we don't do the phone calls and stuff like that, we are always, we show the properties, like we still do all of that old school personable stuff, like pulling comps, and doing in-person showings instead of doing the self-showing lock boxes. And so I think we are personable.
Yeah, I think we're fine.
I like old school ways of doing things sometimes.
I do too. House Bill 1872, this prohibits a residential landlord from taking adverse action against a prospective tenant due to the tenant's history of a dismissed or expunged unlawful detainer. So if someone filed an unlawful detainer, but it was dismissed, you cannot hold that against them. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with it.
Why?
Because it was dismissed. I mean, yeah, their late payment is already going to show up.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going to see it anyway.
But is that not still technically holding it against them?
I don't think you can hold
even though you see it on a different,
I think you're holding the payment history against them, not the court case.
Okay, because then I thought you just wouldn't be able to hold.
Oh, no, the late payment history still.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm like, why would you, even though it was dismissed?
Yeah, I'm still going to see.
If they continually got it right to that point, but then fixed it all, you shouldn't.
I'm still going to see 8 late payments.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm good with that. I don't really care about that one. Let's see. Okay, this one. And the House Bill 2047 is the same essentially as House Bill 1870 with the algorithms.
Okay.
House Bill 2218. This one I'm really unhappy about. This would require us to accept cash, check, any type of lawful tender for rent and security deposits. I'm not a fan of that. I hope it doesn't pass. And if it does pass, I think it will. Governor Youngkin will veto it because it's going to delay everything. Can you imagine? I got to run out to the bank for an hour, so I'm not going to be here. Yeah. Here's a check, but you're going to move in, and then they put a stop payment on it, or the check just doesn't clear in the first place, and then it takes 3 months to get them out because you have to evict them. I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
This is a terrible, terrible bill for landlords.
Even if it does pass, hopefully we are so technology-based these days that people won't.
Yeah.
We do have our old school people, though.
I know. There are some people that do probably enjoy paying by check, so they have a record of them.
Yeah, some people still like to balance that checkbook.
Yeah. We used to take money orders. We've never taken cash.
It's just tedious.
It's very tedious. And what you're going to see it happening is people leaving the office, then everyone else not being taken care of because we can't be in the office because we got to go to the bank for an hour every day.
Yeah.
Or every other day, or it depends on how much cash we have. Especially at the beginning of the month.
And when's the last time you went to the bank? Sucks in there.
I don't know.
You gotta take a ticket, sit down.
House Bill 2229, this would remove the requirement that prior to granting of any relief, a tenant shall pay into escrow any amount rent called for. So that if there was a discrepancy and it went to court, the tenant used to have to pay into court the amount of that discrepancy for the case to be heard.
Yes.
This would remove that. So they can just do it whenever they want. That's going to create a huge backlog, and it's going to be probably one of the most destructive things for landlords.
That's wild.
Yeah,
that is
terrible.
wild.
The rest are just Senate bills, which are mimic the House bills as well. So that's the pending legislation that I'm watching very, very closely.
Is there anything good in there for us? That all sounds...
rules are made for people that can't follow contracts, I think, or laws.
Yeah.
So, it's generally not good things that help us in there.
Yeah, I know. Well,
it's to grant relief, essentially to tenants. When they do something wrong, it's to lessen the charges.
I know, but I feel like somebody has to look out for the landlords here sometimes.
Other states are way more landlord-friendly than Virginia at this point. Yeah. All right. Are we ready to go into the fire section? 10 questions. We are done with property management. Now we're going to have some fun.
Okay.
You ready? Mm-hmm. What is the most useless talent that you have?
Well, I don't want to say my plants are useless.
Okay. But...
well, can I just say I'm useless? Because I don't even have any talents. That was a depressing question. I don't have any talents.
Mine was like, oh, this is gonna
Pissing people off.
But I don't think that's useless. You just saw me on the phone. Ooh,
That was nice.
I don't think people tell me everything. Like, I think there's this perception that it's not that I don't care, but people talk to me about everything. Everything.
I do too. Yeah, I do too.
I'm in so many group chats here. Like,
I went through my messages yesterday and just started deleting all of these because I had so many messages.
Yep.
And I was trying to find something and I couldn't. And so I was like, this is ridiculous. And it was you and Giorgio for most of them.
If aliens abducted you, how would you save yourself?
I wouldn't.
You just let them take you?
I wouldn't.
I'd put, they'd bring me back. I promise they'd bring me back. What is the most embarrassing thing you've Googled?
Ooh. I'm trying to think of like recently. I don't. How to put my Jeep in 4-wheel drive.
Okay. That goes along with mine.
Okay.
Because, did I? Gosh,
Say it.
now I've got a second one because I forgot about that.
Okay, say it.
I didn't know how to pop the hood of my car.
Okay, wait, no, you told me that. You told me that the other day. Yeah, you told me that. You said you were doing something.
Yeah, I did.
And because I said, I don't even know how to open the hood of my car. And you said I had to Google it.
That's true. I had no idea.
I said we're an embarrassment.
I knew that it was supposed to be a latch there somewhere. I just didn't know exactly where it was.
Oh, Lord.
What would your dog roast you about?
Sometimes when she runs out of food and I don't feel like going to the grocery store, I'll just give her like a whole pack of hot dogs. And sometimes I may do the same shit for my kids sometimes.
That's parenting. That's normal, I think. I think every parent gets to that point. Mine would be, because my dog follows me around wherever I go, and I forget why I go into rooms all the time. So he just like ends up following me around in circles. Good thing I don't have a big house. What's your favorite way to embarrass your kids?
Well, they're different. So, with my daughter, all I have to do is exist on this planet. And then
That's because she's 12, right?
yeah, she's about to be 12, and literally all I have to do is exist. She actually told me that I embarrass her sometimes, and I was like, why? I don't understand. And she's like, I don't know. She's like, something just embarrasses me about you. And I was like, what is that even supposed to mean?
I would think you're a cool mom.
And I asked her, I was like, I'm not a cool mom. And she goes, no, you are. But like, that can be embarrassing too. And so like, I just literally existing on, and then, when I reprimand my son, he gets like real shy and embarrassed. I think it's a boy thing.
Yeah.
Like something about your mom just really letting you have it.
What theme song should play when you walk into a room?
Who let the dogs out?
Mine is the Golden Girls theme. How could you ever be unhappy with that song? I love
That's a
it.
cute one.
If you could replace your alarm clock with someone's voice to wake you up every morning, whose voice would it be?
Absolutely nobody's. Absolutely. Would you want to wake up? Whose voice would you want to wake up?
You want it?
To?
I said Reba McEntire.
Dolly Parton.
See? There we go. Someone.
Yeah, that's like a sweet kind
Yes.
if I had to. Snoop Dogg.
That would be a good one. That would be a good one.
Yeah, Snoop Dogg.
Reba used to record back in the day before you were on the internet.
I do like her.
AOL used to have a greeting and it would say, welcome, you've got mail. But Reba had a greeting that you could download and be like, don't forget to check your mail.
Yeah, her voice is so soothing, actually. Yeah, that's a good one.
If you could banish one inconvenience, what would it be?
I think telephones are an inconvenience.
I said stupid people.
You're going to be There's going to be nobody left.
There's going to be one less employee at Virginia Natural Gas. I'm going to tell you that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. If you were a ghost, what would you do to haunt people?
Wait, say
If you were a ghost, what would you do to haunt people?
My kids, I would break all their stuff and mess up their rooms and I would not let them have nice things.
I'd mess with people. I'd just move things around and
I think that I would because I'm petty and I would pick each person's like personal fear that I know about, and that's how. So it's not a one size fits all.
What's the worst text that
I'd
you
turn
sent
on your water spigot.
Oh, come on. That cost me like $40. That's a story for another day. We're going to do like a real uncensored episode, and we'll go into that story.
I would turn on your water spigot.
God.
I wish we had time for that story. We're going to have to tell it on another one. That's
great.
What's
What's the worst text you have sent to the wrong person? We've all done it.
Oh.
I know. Mine came to mind immediately when I saw that question.
I was actually talking mad crap about my biological mother to what I thought was my brother's, and I sent it in a group text, but I clicked on the wrong group text, so she was one of the members of the group text and then it was a while before I realized, and then I texted, and all I said was wrong person.
What do you do to recover from that? We've all done it. So mine is, I was texting a client, and I am professional all the time, obviously. So I meant to type WTF ? And it auto-corrected to DTF ?
Did they say yes or no?
She was not my type. She got a good laugh out of it, but I was livid, absolutely livid.
So funny though.
Terrible.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you all for tuning into our season premiere of season 2 of Property Management Uncensored. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Thanks for watching.